Well, welcome to the January 2017, first of this year. Holy cow. Can you believe we're saying 2017? Welcome to the new year, everybody. I tell you what, I'm hearing from lots of people in the industry how excited they are about the opportunities this year and just seem to be very optimistic. So that's exciting because I think we all know it feels like we've been pushing a chain uphill the last couple of years. So looking forward to seeing what 2017 has for us, and I just pray for everybody that it becomes a phenomenal year of opportunity and growth. I'll go ahead and mention right now, next month, a Recruiting Insider call is on February 15th, same time. And Matt Lee from Ramsey Media Works and I are working on our Master Recruiting Techniques tour schedule, and we'll be announcing that next month, I'm sure, during the recruiting call. So stand by for news on that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the meeting and trying to get my screens to move, and that's a good thing. I do want to recognize and appreciate the support of TruckRight, which is just absolutely smoking applicant tracking system, and HireRight. I mean, everybody knows who HireRight is, and also Matt Lee from Ramsey Media Works. And folks, Ramsey knows advertising. They know trucking advertising more specifically. And with that being said, I want to welcome Matt from Ramsey Media Works. As many of you have been on the call, probably everyone that we've done. And by the way, this month we have I'm chasing a little rabbit here, but we have set another record of registrants. We have 722 unique locations registered for this event, and man, I do not take that lightly. It's growing every month, and just thank you so much for that. And I've got to believe part of the draw is Matt Lee. Matt does the Ramsey Minute, and folks, I hope that if you want some education and entertainment, go to recruitingsessions.com. Matt has got some phenomenal recruiting techniques and topics covered out there, and they are also very entertaining. So entertaining, you'll be sitting there wondering, what's he going to say next? What's he going to say next? But with that being said, Matt, welcome to the call, sir.
Thank you for that, Kelly, and Happy New Year to everybody that's on the call. Hopefully your 2017 has started out to be a good one, and I would agree with you, Kelly. Everybody that I've been talking to has certainly had a lot of positive things to say, and are really excited about 2017 and all the possibilities that it's going to bring for us. You know, the old saying, out with the old and in with the new. It's not so fast, and in this case, we're going to talk about new leads. It's a new year. We're going to talk about new leads versus old leads. We spend a lot of time and money, for that matter, out there trying to find new leads and new applicants that are going to come to work for our companies. But we shouldn't forget about the old ones. I mean, we spent a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of time back in 2016 developing a lot of advertising campaigns that brought in a whole bunch of different applications, whether that be full applications or leads. And so I want to spend just a few minutes about three techniques, three things that you should be doing with your old leads. So the first is actually we have to be selective. And what I mean by that is we have to look at the qualifications of that particular applicant. We also have to look at what locations that they were applying from, and see if that would be a good fit for some of your new lanes that you have created. Maybe you have a new dedicated route or lane there that you didn't have before, and so location could be a great thing, and also status. And what I mean by that is were they hireable, and maybe they just took employment at another company, and for whatever reason, it's time to reach back out to those particular applicants. Or maybe they didn't have enough experience. They were 3 months, 6 months short of what your actual hiring criteria is. Well, now they probably have qualified for that. And so again, that's what I mean by the status. The second thing would be we have to give them a good reason to reconnect. And so we can send out messages or create job opportunities, again, where we can reach back out to them and say, hey, we actually thank you for your past interest. We have this position that just came available, and we thought of you. That type of a deal. We want to talk about new benefits or locations. Maybe you have a new terminal or a new area that you can focus on now. And then any upcoming events. Let's just say open house, or some people call them hiring events. But I like to create that open house type atmosphere where you're inviting them to come in, learn a little bit more about your company, meet some current drivers, have a hamburger, hot dog, tour the facility, those types of things. So give them a good reason to reconnect. And then finally, how do we do that? There's 3 different ways that we can do that. One, we can actually directly call them, where you or your recruiters can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I want to reach back out and see if that company that you went to work for is really performing or doing what they said that they were going to do for you. And is it a good fit? And because we would still love to have you come over and join our team. We can email them. We could put together a solid email campaign that would be able to continue to market to them about job opportunities. And then if we have permission, and there's several different ways that you can do that, but if we have permission, we can send voice and text blasts today to those particular candidates that would basically be very simple for them to press 1 and call back into the recruiting center. So those are 3 options to look at some of your old leads. Again, we've spent a lot of money and effort gaining those old leads. So it's time to maybe go back and revisit some of those candidates from 2016 and see if there might be some good ones that we can reach back out to. And with that, I will turn it back over to Kelly.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for that. And folks, if you have any questions for Matt, just type that in, and we will, if he's able to answer them here on the call, we will. Otherwise, we'll certainly answer them afterwards. And, I'm going to continue on this theme for a second, Matt, and that is, there are people that you wanted to hire. People want to hire, and they disappeared. I call that took other employment. And one of 2 things that happened when they disappeared. Either they went to tell their current employer, hey, I'm going to be quitting. And, they did exactly what every one of us would do, and that is, man, don't quit. Come here, let's talk about this, and then they talk them into staying. Or you got outsold. Somebody else on the very first phone call just said to them after the conversation, man, John, I've got to tell you, based on what I'm seeing here, I don't see any reason that we couldn't take this next step. Matter of fact, this is what we need to do. And they worked out a plan of action with the applicant and got them on that plan. And once they're on that plan, they're not really interested in maybes from other folks. So they just disappear. And so what happens is, we make a phone call, and they don't answer because they don't want that controversial, and not controversial, but, this phone call where you're trying to, I can't think of the word, I'm having a verbal disadvantage moment, but conflict. They don't want to have that conflict wherein you're trying to talk them into coming onto your fleet. So they just disappear. Well, about 75% of turnover happens in the first 90 days of employment. So if you were to send out what I call the took other employment letter about 30 days later, and it basically says, hey, you know what, I am I'm sorry that it, I'm sorry, got distracted. Hey, I hope it worked out where you're at. I've lost contact with you, but I just want you to know that if if it doesn't work out where you're at, I'd still like to have you at our fleet. So just give me a call. We can update your application, and hopefully get you in our truck where you really need to be anyway. And as a result of that letter, you're hitting them at a time that we know there's a good chance for a dissatisfaction and them realizing I didn't make a great choice, and you're removing the fear of rejection. And folks, this is a very powerful way to reach back out to applicants that you've paid lots of money to receive and then that have just disappeared. But most recruiters don't do that. And once they've lost contact, they just file it. And another way, of course, is to put them into an email drip marketing campaign, whereas, so that they're getting regular news about your company and the benefits of working for your company as well. Ramsey is on the leading edge of all of that type of recruiting effort. So I will give to Laura my Took Other Employment letter as part of the documents that are given in follow-up to this webinar. And so those will go out to everybody that's registered for the call. But let's shift gears now. In the surveys that people answer at the end of the webinar, people are like, we want more on retention, more on retention. And so I do hope that you will continue to fill out those surveys. And there are a few questions about, hey, do you want to hear from Matt? Do you want information regarding Kelly's e-learning program, for recruiters and drivers, Kelly's recruiting call center, those type things. And if you have an interest, please check that box, and then we will contact you specifically about those services. And I appreciate your interest in our services. I want to talk to you about basic human needs. Now, these are psychological human needs. I'm going to talk about two of them in this webinar. I'm going to talk about items number 3 and 4 in next month's webinar. There's actually, if you Google basic human needs, there's usually about 9 items that come up. These 4 are pretty solid in every list. The other 5, they change up a little bit. But I also find that these 4 are specific to trucking. I mean, they really hit us at home. And if you don't address these appropriately, you will have turnover, and you'll be sitting there going, and this is what happened to me. I was sitting there going, where's the smoking gun? Why are all these people leaving? Well, how can I stop this? And then I did some research and found out about these basic psychological human needs and realized, oh man, we are making a huge mistake. And I'll tell you what happened. The basic human need for security. These people need to feel safe and sure that they know what's going on. If they start feeling unsecure, man, I tell you what, how's the company going? Are you guys okay? Are you guys going out of business? Why is it that a couple of key managers have quit? What do they know that we don't know? If they start feeling unsecure about their job and their security within it, or their relationships, their ability to provide for their families, folks, you're going to have a huge problem. That happened to us when I was at CFI many moons ago. It was like the end of 1996, actually, and we had a lot of our eggs in the automotive basket. And, Glenn Brown, I'll tell you what, folks, I truly feel that I'm able to do the things that I do today because of the experience I gained at CFI, being just an industry-leading company. And by the way, you may have noticed and seen that Transforce out of Canada has bought Conway Truckload from XPO, and they are going to name it CFI. They got the name back and are going to use that. So I think that was a very wise move on their part, because I think CFI still has a great, Contract Freighters Incorporated has a great reputation in the industry, great name. But we started diversifying away from automotive in the last quarter of 1996. And whenever you're moving away from a large piece of business, making it a smaller piece of your business, it's going to lower your miles, and that's what happened. And so, I mean, guys were calling me toward the end of the year there, hey, man, Kelly, I tell you what, I've been out here running, and the miles are down, and, man, I'm going hungry here, man, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, it's just the time of the year, and, just hang on, it'll be better. Like, folks, honestly, I didn't know that we were diversifying from automotive. For business purposes, it was kept kind of into a tight group of what was going on, near as I can tell, because I did not know anything about it. And so there we went. And so I just thought it was low miles based on the time of the year. Well, come January, the message went out, hey, all drivers, the Kansas City terminal is now closed, and for more information, call Joplin Dispatch. So here you have where we've had low miles in the fourth quarter, and then come January, we close a major terminal for CFI. And I mean to tell you, and mass exodus ensued. And all the voluntary and involuntary resignations came across my desk. I had to do the talks and the interviews with them. And they're like, oh, Kelly, I mean, I never thought I'd see the day to see if I'd go out of business, but, man, I got to go find a good job before the rest of these guys are looking for that job, before they get all the good ones. And I'm like, we're not going out of business. Well, you know what? Their basic need for security was shattered. Their miles were down. All they're doing, they were going off perception and reality. Their miles were down, and then they're looking at the facts. We closed a major terminal. And so they started quitting rapidly. The next thing you know, we sent a message out that the Memphis terminal is no longer 24 hours a day. And that was the next exodus. I mean, that was another nail in the coffin. Matter of fact, fleets started calling me. Oh, I never thought I'd see the day CFI went out of business, but, would you send me a list of your drivers? I mean, I might be able to hire a few of them. And I'm like, I'm not going out of business, and I'm going to hire your drivers away from you. I'm like, for crying out loud. And, I mean, truck driving schools calling me looking for the list of drivers. The rumor was rampant in the industry. Some of you probably remember it, that CFI was going out of business. We were not going out of business. What the truth was is we were diversifying away from automotive freight. And in that shift of, reshifting our freight balance, our miles got a little low right there. We didn't need Kansas City anymore if we weren't hauling and dependent on auto freight. We didn't need Memphis to be a 24-hour-day facility if we weren't hauling all that auto freight. And Glenn Brown just basically told the driver asked him in the driver's meeting, are we going out of business? He said, no. I'm making these changes to make us profitable. I don't haul unprofitable freight. I don't haul cheap freight. I don't haul freight for people who don't treat you the way I think you ought to be treated. And I don't haul freight for people who don't pay their bills. He got 3 standing ovations in that explanation, and my rehire numbers went through the roof as people realized we weren't going out of business. Folks, that was security. The drivers with the basic human need for security were running because they felt that their security, their livelihood, their job was at risk, and they took off. So communication is key. Folks, you've got to address the rumors. We created what was called a green sheet. So whenever we heard a rumor in the rumor mill, we'd just go ahead and distribute this thing called a green sheet. I got to tell you, it became highly sought after. And I mean, drivers, when they heard there was a new green sheet out there, they would call and ask, can you fax that to me? Here's the number. And so that was our way of addressing the rumors that were out going across the CB radio. Relationships are very important. I had people, my own recruiters were coming to me. They could see what was happening, and they're like, Kelly, are we going out of business? And no, we're not going out of business. We're strong, da-da-da-da. And they're like, well, if you're saying that, then I'll stay because I trust you. And so relationships are very important. especially in tough times, because there's folks on this phone call. I've got to believe that if tough times came to the company, there's going to be people in the company looking to see what you do. And if you say, hey, it's okay, then they're going to believe you and they're going to stay. On the other hand, you say, man, I don't know if it's okay, you might as well get ready to start filling out their exit interview sheet. The next is freedom. The number one reason that drivers come into the transportation industry, or people come to the transportation industry, is for freedom. But I think we all know that is being slowly chipped away. I mean, today we have more oversight in trucking than we have ever had. When you just play back a few years, when satellite communication first came out, there are certain drivers on your fleet that you had to finally, it was kind of like the cow getting into the pasture. You finally get them in the pasture and you slam the gate behind them. Woo-hoo, we got them. This guy finally drove into the lot and somebody closed the gate behind him. And you're not leaving the lot until we get the satellite system installed in your truck. Finally got them cornered and put the satellite system in. These are the people that felt like, hey, their freedom was getting taken away. Big Brother was going to be looking over my shoulder. We were the worst. I mean, somebody would make a mistake and we'd write a new rule. And these drivers with the basic human need for freedom, I didn't realize it was freedom at the time, but they'd come and are like, leave me alone. If somebody's making a mistake over here, deal with them, but leave me alone. What they're saying is, I don't want any more rules. I don't want any more oversight. I don't want any more regulations. I just want to do my job and be left alone. So folks, think about satellite communications. We all have them now, and drivers are starting to enjoy them. Well, now the next thing is e-logs. And I've got a few fleets that have said in the last year or so, I'm going to have to wait till the absolute last to do it, because if I put those e-logs in, my drivers are all going to quit. Well, I'm hoping that the e-logs will be more readily accepted, because they've been out there for a little while and drivers are saying, hey, these things are great, they work, and it's not that bad. But you know what, there's going to be those that are going to push back from that. Another system that some fleets are putting in are drive cams. And you have, the choice to have the camera going just straight forward or also to show in the cab. And drivers really push back on that. But on the other hand, I think of, a story Brett Sheets from Steelman Transportation told me. And he showed me the video. One of his drivers coming out of Kansas City rolled the truck over. And he's like, man, I got blown over. And they're like, yeah, right. And then they played the tape, and sure enough, he's just driving straight down the road. And all at once you hear several expletives and what in the world and oh my, and he's on the side sliding down the highway. He was hit by a straight line wind, a freak straight line wind. Without the drive cam, that driver would not have been employed, because who'd have believed it? But drivers sure are going to push back on that, and I think there's been a lot of litigation assistance as well. But folks, that's freedom. When you wonder why are they pushing back, it's freedom. And the number one reason that drivers come into our industry is freedom. So, high structure and many rules create struggle for this group of driver. So resist. How do we address it? Resist the temptation to create more rules. If there's an issue with a specific driver, address the specific driver, not more rules. One time I was doing undercover trucker with the fleet, and they had all these fines. I mean, undercover trucker is a service I provide wherein I go through orientation. I call as a driver. I get recruited as a driver, I come to orientation as a driver, and then disappear after I'm assigned a truck. Usually we make up a story that I'm going to, go home or something's come up, and then I'll be back, and we set a date on when to come back, so the operations isn't sitting there waiting on a load. So the first thing that this this company did, I mean, the very first thing they showed us in orientation was, here are, turn to this page, here are all the fines if you don't turn your logs in, if you do this, if you do that, if you don't do this. And it had all these ways that we could lose money in the book, in the orientation manual. Then they had a PowerPoint and said, here's the rest of the fines. We don't have these in the book yet. and I mean to tell you, the guys during break were like, holy cow, by the time I get through this month, I'm going to owe them more than they owe me. They got more ways to take our money from us than Carter's got pills. I went to the boss, the president, and said, hey, how's that working out for you? And he's like, it's not working. It's not changing the behavior. And I'm like, absolutely, because you can punish people all day long, but if they don't know how to do it the right way in the first place, it's not, and/or they're not motivated to do it the right way, in a positive way, not just negative. First is knowing how to do it, and then secondly, wanting to do it, and it's not going to work. So by the way, after that orientation, they got rid of all of their fines that they had on drivers. When I think about freedom, there were certain types of loads that we would assign that required check calls. And back before satellite communication, you had to make a check call every morning, and then certain loads you had to make check calls multiple times during the day. Well, today, with the advent of satellite communications, we're able, the system just check calls. We're able to see any time where the person's at. So have passive oversight, not direct oversight. And as much as possible, give them, and whenever possible, give choices, the freedom to choose. If they're at your terminal, hey, these are the loads I've got. Give them 3 or 4 choices of loads that to take, if at all possible. And so they get to choose the load that they want, per se. Out on the road, many times it's, hey, this is the load I've got in your area. See ya. You can let me know, the nearest circle service on Qualcomm. But whenever possible, give them choices and resist the temptation to create more and more rules and oversight. Our federal government is doing a wonderful job of doing plenty of that for us anyway. So with that being said, folks, next month we're going to go into the next 2 basic human needs. I hope that during this call you've gone, oh man, yep, that makes sense. I know what he's talking about. I've seen it. And so hopefully that'll help us to keep from stepping into that trap. So as I mentioned, the next call is on February 15th at 10 a.m. And with that, I want to thank Matt Lee again for the Ramsey Minute, and look forward. He's already told me what he's going to talk about next month, and it's going to be a great session. Go out to recruitingsessions.com. Don't forget that. It is well worth your time. And with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you, folks. I don't take lightly the time that you've invested here with me today. Goodbye.